Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. We're going to talk about the right way to roleplay with DM James. We're going to talk about the Strixhaven Starbucks adventure, and we're going to talk about another thing DM James was missing and got wrong about the Starbucks Strixhaven 5e adventure. All right, so DM James, you said, hey, this is an adventure about, people serving coffee at a magical college. Where's the heroicism in this? Where's the heroics in this? Dungeons and Dragons is about heroics, right? What's heroic about serving coffee, right? And then at the end of your video, you said, hey, what am I missing? Thank you for saying that. You missed so much, and I'm enjoying so much just telling you all the things you missed. Because I think the reason why you missed so much, and the reason why you don't understand Strixhaven, and the reason why the entire D&D community really doesn't understand Strixhaven, right, is one, you haven't read it, right? Two, right, and you're saying, hey, I really dislike this thing I didn't read. That's a problem, right? And here's why. There's just so much you're missing. The other thing is, you're myopically playing a historical game, right? And it's atrophying your intellect and your empathy, okay? So, one, you're playing Adventure Conquer King as your primary game, and that's a copy of a 1984 historical Dungeons & Dragons rather than playing the now version, right? And that is all coming from, Byzantine history, which is even older, and it's allowing you to not see what's happening in your country right now in America. And you know what's happening right now in America? Baristas are emerging as heroes, okay? So what happened? So we now live in the post-March 2020 world, right? Before March 2020, and maybe a couple years before that, you would say, who are heroes, right? You look right, and you see a police officer, right? And in that old, simple world, police officer equals hero. That's changed, right? Maybe they're a hero. Maybe they're one of the darkest villains we've ever had, right? Because they've abused power, right? And only used, the powers that were given to them on certain people in a certain way, which was incredibly dark. And now everybody's like, oh, there's a police officer. Is that a hero? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, right? And the conversation has changed, right? Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is now. It deals with all 47 years of history for Dungeons and Dragons, and it deals with cultural questions of today in ways that are informed, not atrophied, right? Because it's literally, playing games that's been done for 35 years, right? Or a version of the game that's been done for over 30 years, right? In order to play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, you have to know Dungeons and Dragons, and you have to know today's culture, right? And guess what? So how does a modern barista become a hero? How does an American barista today become a hero, right? Well, March 2020, guess what, right? I'm incredibly blessed. When I go to work, I'm perfectly safe. I don't have to leave my home. I'm completely remote. And millions of Americans are completely remote. But guess what? There are single parents, right? There are college students. There were people who don't have the ability to go remote. And you know what many of them were? They were physical laborers who were baristas in literally thousands of Starbucks all over the United States, right? And you know what they did? Starbucks has a lot of expensive coffee, but they also have cheap coffee. They have $2 coffee, right? And poor people can go to Starbucks all over the country, and they have since March 2020, right? And gotten one simple joy they can actually afford. And every barista in America became a hero when they said, I am not going to cave up and not do my job. I'm going to adventure out into the real world, and I'm going to serve this cup of coffee physically so that poor people can have one small joy while the wealthy sit in their privileged remote jobs, right? And I'm just going to allow this one simple piece of human joy to still exist. And every Starbucks barista out there became a hero starting on March 2020 when they braved the plague that has swept across this earth, right? To make sure that everybody, whether they're wealthy or poor, right, could just preserve one simple human joy. That's a hero. right? And you missed it because you're atrophied in your intellect and in your empathy because you're staying in the historical, right? All this can get fixed, right? You can stop missing the obvious, that baristas 100% qualify as heroes today, right? Both in the IRL world and certainly can be heroes in the Strixhaven world. And you could stop missing obvious things like this if you jump onto D&D 5e now, right? Because your intellect and your empathy is being atrophied by the historical game that you're playing. Not only will you get better, but the D&D 5e crew, the young people, the old people, everybody playing D&D 5e needs your 3 decades plus of history on the best game that exists, which is D&D 5e, right? So that's what you missed. I don't know if you paid attention. In March 2020, baristas became heroes, right? Like, so you asked, what's heroic about that? There's your answer. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.